if you want to grab last-minute water and or other refreshments, this is your moment. If you're online, you can also do that, but, you know, that's your discretion.
Green.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just all red anymore.
Nope. All right. For those of you who are not familiar with the meetup, my name is Rose Williams, and I run the Boston Write the Docs group here with a few other people. Philip, who's not here right now, but who is here often. Tonight we're going to have a presentation from Karen Gill. He is going to be, I'm just going to adjust this mic because I'm very tall. He's going to be presenting on the challenges of dealing with large documentation sets. So we're looking forward to that. But before then, we have a couple of announcements to get through. If you're unfamiliar with the Write the Docs organization, we are a series of conferences and local meetups, both in the US and outside, and we focus on bringing together the world of software around documentation. We want to make documentation accessible and easy to learn so that you can implement it in your organization. We are at Cantina, and we're sponsored by Cantina for many of our events. They've been incredibly generous, including providing this live stream, so kudos to them. They have been a delightful sponsor throughout our time and existence in the Boston area, so thanks to them. Scott, do you want to say anything about Cantina? It's up to you. Scott says it's fine. Cantina's delightful. They host us. They host many things. You should come to them. So. The Peanut Gallery in the delightful crowd says that the first time we were here, they had tater tots, and that's how they won us over, which is very true. The tater tots were excellent. So a big thank you to Cantina. We've already covered what we're going to be reviewing for presentations. The presentation will cover challenges such as scaling, tooling, and infrastructure, user interface, supporting multiple software versions, which is always exciting, search engine optimization, or SEO, for those of you who love hashtags and acronyms, and multi-product workflows and metrics and reporting, which is always a struggle for everybody. So I would love to see how you all do it, and I'm looking forward to it. We do have one last event left in 2017. It is coming to a close. We will be at Cyber Reason, and we are doing an end-of-the-year happy hour. That's going to be on the 12th of December. They are in the Hancock Tower. And I am going to share some of the conference call for papers for the Write the Docs organization, and I'm going to have a time for you all to brainstorm some of the topics that you want to cover next year. And our media person is back. Hooray! Brian's delightful. And one of the delightful things about Cyber Reason is that they are actively looking to add to their documentation team. So if you are familiar with learning management systems and other things along those lines, they have an instructional designer position open. They also have a technical writing contract position open. I think it's for a 4 to 6 month stint. I want to say they have someone out on maternity leave who sometimes comes and joins us here at Write the Docs, so you could help bridge that gap and leave her a delightful position when she comes back. So, and I'm super excited. I've known Beth Favini. They have a dedicated technical communications director, which is really cool and a rarity. So they seem to have a pretty full team between the Boston and their Tel Aviv office. We at Write the Docs do have a code of conduct. I have the very succinct 3 principles of that up on the screen, which is be friendly and welcoming, be respectful, and as documentarians, we expect you to be careful in the words that you choose. I have the TLDR, which is don't be a jerk, but we have very specific wording about that on the code of conduct on our website, and you are welcome to escalate issues even beyond me if that's ever something that you want to do. And that's my picture. Ta-da. So thank you for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to Karen. We're going to have a few minutes to seconds of technical transition.
Yeah. Rose is really good at them. Can everyone hear me? Is good? Okay. All right. Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Karan, and I'm talking about challenges with large doc sets. So what do I mean by large? By large, I mean doc sets that have thousands of pages and across multiple products and dozens of writers. And so where I have this experience because I've worked in MathWorks for a few years, and we have dozens and dozens of products, and they all need documentation. And what that results in is a fairly complex doc set, which has to satisfy different requirements for different products. And so that has its own unique challenges. And I thought a talk on that would be interesting. So I hope that even if not everyone has a large doc set, that there are elements of these challenges that everyone can identify with. Okay, so our agenda is we'll set some context. Then we talk about scaling, because of course, if you say emergency. There we go. All right, should be good. Okay, hi. Okay, I'm back. I was just testing him. It was fine. You're pretty good. Good job. Okay, yeah. So it was pretty straightforward agenda. I'll set some context. Then, of course, the first question when you use the word large is scaling. So we'll talk about scaling. We'll talk about some more challenges, SEO challenges, and then some takeaways. Okay? So I'll just set some context. So how did I become a technical writer? That's a question that a lot of people have, because no one, well, at least I didn't set out to be a technical writer. So I studied some engineering physics. I probably look like one of those guys in the picture. And then this comic well illustrates what happened to me. So if those of you who've been to grad school have probably read PhD comics. So this shows, it's a plot of what you know versus how much you know about it. And it shows your progression through life, through academia. So as you go through academia, you know more and more about less and less. And I wasn't so sure about this progression in life. So I was looking for, I think, balance, put it that way. So do I really want this? No, I want all the things. And I found this thing called technical writing where I could have all the things. So I'm a technical writer, yeah, and now I'm here today. Okay, there's some more context. So I became a technical writer at MathWorks in 2013, and I joined in summer. So this is what Boston looked like. And I moved from LA, so I had no idea what moving to Boston meant. It quickly became this, and I found out. Anyway, so MathWorks. So what is MathWorks? It's a company. It makes software for engineers and scientists. That's pretty much what you need to know for the purposes of this talk. What does that mean in practice? It means we make some products, we make some more products, and then we make some more products. So basically, we just make a whole bunch of products. The point of this is not to indoctrinate you about MathWorks, but to tell you that we have a whole bunch of products. So suppose we have 100 products, and every product has 100 pages of doc. That's 10,000 pages of doc. You know, it's pretty simple. Okay, so first challenge, scaling. So when I talk about scaling, I think all these issues will sound familiar to anyone who's worked in documentation. So these are what I call the usual suspects. Okay, so number one, we have a style guide. Yes, I know. Okay, here, element-wise is something that occurs often in our documentation. Now, is it element space-wise, element-wise, element-dash-wise? Is that an n-dash, m-dash, or hyphen? Who knows? Okay, but we have 10,000 pages of doc, and it's nice to have consistent style. Great. Okay, now, I fixed a typo. I need to rebuild my doc so I can send it to my developer for review, because if I don't rebuild my doc and they see the typo, they're going to pick it out and think I don't know what I'm doing, right? So I go to rebuild my doc, and that's how I feel, because it takes half an hour to rebuild my doc, because I have a lot of doc. It's annoying. So long build times. So you have that. I'm sure all of us have run into this issue where you fix a typo, you think it's great, so you're just like skimming through it once, because just to make sure, and you find another typo, and then I have to rebuild my doc again. That's like an hour. Super annoying. Okay, inserting links. So we have a nice little link insert dialog. Of course, I had to blur out the internal links, so I'm sorry, but you can kind of see like every line is a link there. Now, what you need to focus on is the scroll bar. Can you see how long the scroll bar is with a little square? Okay, so we have a lot of links. And that's just my doc. So you need some mechanism to take care of the links, check if they break, keep them updated, blah, blah, blah. Great. Okay, technical debt. I think everyone can identify with technical debt. So my doc set is well over a decade old, has been handed down, like hand-me-down clothes between multiple writers over, I don't know, 15 years or whatever. And then features keep coming out, and we keep adding, shiny new doc, but sometimes it feels like that. So I did look a little bit for a picture that represented how I feel, and I think that represents how I feel. Okay, and lastly, translation. So I'm not really sure if anyone else does this, but anyone else over here does this, but at MathWorks, we translate. We translate into Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, depending on the product. And thing is, you can't really start translation till the very end when the doc is done and baked, but you don't have much time because you want to push it out. Do I just tap that? Hey, oh, I'm getting good at this. Okay, so you want to push it out right away with the release, so you don't have much time. So translation is complicated. All right, so that's the usual suspects. Here's a good one: institutional knowledge. Right. So now I have doc, which is over a decade old, passed between multiple writers. When I read one of the doc pages for the first time in my documentation, out of those whatever 1,000 doc pages, I don't know why a certain sentence was in there. I don't know if a customer complained, a developer complained, the writer had a certain use case in mind. Like, who knows? So this is a good example. So this is a page I worked on. It's the sign reference page for the sign function in MATLAB. That's how it looked in 2010. If you go in and look at our past documentation, you'll see this. Okay? So you see the definition for the sign function there. All right, let's go to 2012. If you look at the page, it's not very clear from that screenshot. There is no definition for the sign function. It got taken out. You go to 2013, oh, the definition's back. So clearly, there was some institutional knowledge lost there. Now, I was working on this page, and the developer said, hey, you don't need that definition. You can just take it out. Luckily, I knew that this has already happened once, so I didn't take it out. But it could just easily repeat, right? So I don't know, do you add comments in the documentation to, like, what's the solution? Anyway, like history, doc repeats itself. All right. Okay, UI. So building a table of contents for, I don't know, 100 pages of doc is not that complicated, but building a table of contents for a few hundred pages, so on and so forth, it gets a little complicated. Further, if you have a lot of doc, users are going to search through that doc. They're not going to browse, no way. So how do you build navigation for search as opposed to browsing? And honestly, I don't have the answer to that. So that's an open puzzle. 2, you want consistent UI across all your documentation for all your products, yet all products have different requirements. The output might have to be slightly different, and there's no way you can spot check output on all those pages. So there's always a little bit of churn with trying to make everything consistent between the doc you write and how it gets transformed to HTML. And then lastly, it's pretty simple. Acquisitions are trouble. Every time you acquire a company, their doc is in its own format, and God knows what infrastructure, and you have to stuff it into your format and your infrastructure at some point, and it usually doesn't go very well. That's pretty much how it goes. Okay, then the infrastructure is technical. So here someone's complaining about letter writing because like they need a pen, a paper, an envelope, postage. It's complicated. So just imagine infrastructure for all that for 10,000 pages of doc with 100 products. So what do? We use docbook and XML. Yes, I know, we use XML, not Markdown. So you might say, hey, Karan, why don't you guys just use Markdown or restructured text, right? So honestly, if you asked me if Markdown would work, I have no idea. Because we have lots of requirements. We probably have dependencies and there's no one list of all the dependencies we have. There's no one list of all the requirements we have. So it's really hard to say that we could just say that Markdown would work or not work. I don't know. Then every time we have a requirement, it needs to be mapped to some XML tag. So you need to figure that out. You need to make sure the XML tags work properly. There's a schema, so on and so forth. If you train writers on them, you need to check that it works on all the pages, it renders properly, and then this results in a constant update of tooling and documentation. And so the end result is that you do get some level of constant noise, and that limits the rate of change. Cool. Okay. Multiple software versions. I don't think I have to really talk about this, but so I won't talk about it too much. Basically, we get things like this, where the user says, so apparently my textbook is out of date. Yes, your textbook is out of date. Okay, so users are on all sorts of versions. We have 2 releases every year. Our product has been in existence for a long time. So we could have users on the 2009 version. I've seen some people on even earlier versions. And yeah, and then the doc on our web is the latest version, of course. So the stuff that they find through Google is the latest version, and then you get stuff like this. Then I met someone socially who works at a pretty fancy physics research group in Harvard. And they said, we use your 2009 version because we don't know how to update our code to your latest version. I was like, that was nice to hear. All right. And this was like fancy stuff, okay? They had telescopes at the South Pole. I put it that way. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So if you go to our website, you'll see all these options for doc, going back all these releases till, if you squint, you can see 2006 on the top right. So, well, yeah. Okay, so multiple versions. Okay. Now we have what I think of as the others. So these are the others. So what are the others? The others are competing doc sets. So what do I mean? Well, number one, Stack Overflow. So I'll be honest, Stack Overflow, as far as I'm concerned, is documentation. And honestly, they do a really good job. But they have one issue which I feel like everyone has, which is the answers sometimes get out of date. So if you see a question from 2012, it may not prescribe the best workflow now, right? 5 years later. So it does get out of date. It may not prescribe the best workflow anyway. You may want users to find another workflow. Now, you could, I suppose, search through all of Stack Overflow, find the most visited posts, update those answers, so on and so forth, but it's work. So it's competing documentation. You have Homebrew Tutorials. A user thinks that MathLab doesn't have good doc. They write their own tutorial. More power to them, but same problem. At some point, if they'll stop maintaining it, it'll go out of date. But hey, it might just have some search authority, so people might keep hitting that tutorial. Lecture notes from courses. I've seen lecture notes from 2004 come up in search results for a common operation. And they prescribe a workflow that's completely out of date, so it's annoying. Books, same problem. And then we have our own version of Stack Overflow, and it's called MathLab Answers. So it also has the same problem. All right, that's competing doc. Oh, so we are on to SEO. SEO is pretty interesting once you get into it. At least I think it's pretty interesting. And when you have a lot of doc, it has its own challenges. So this is an example of a search where we have multiple results from the same product. So out of our many, many products, every result on this page is from the same product. Now, the user is searching for an operation called geometric transformations for registering images. Whatever, it's some operation. And they get a whole bunch of copycat search results, and it's not really clear which one you want to go to. So when you get a lot of doc, if you aren't careful, you can end up with situations like this, where it's not, users can't figure out, okay, that's the page I need. Okay, well, here's another example. So here are results that look very similar, but from multiple products. So your user on product A, and you're looking, and so you do a search for a task that you want to perform in product A. You get these search results. You might click on a search result from product B because it looks similar to the task you want to perform. So this is what happens when you have products that have overlapping tasks or functionality that ends up doing similar tasks in maybe different languages or whatever. Okay, but the next example is, okay, so sorry, these are, I just marked out the products. So the first two are MPS, the third is a product called Compiler SDK, the next two are MPS, the last one is Compiler SDK. But totally not obvious from the search results. All right, this is my favorite example, which is it's just a mess. So you're a user, you want to solve some inequalities. You go to Google, you type in MathLab solve inequalities, and you get this mess. And it's not really clear which one you want. So I like to think that the user feels like Gollum, and he's looking for his precious, and they have no idea where their precious is. I don't know. It's kind of a mess. So they look. Guess what? It's that one. That's your precious. I know, right? But yeah. Actually, yeah. I wouldn't even get into the search result page. It makes me sad every time I see it. Yeah. So, okay. Cross-product workflows. So here's a slide from one of our sales presentations. It's a bit dated, but anyway. It shows you a product in the center called MATLAB Production Server, and you see a bunch of arrows going off, and every arrow is a workflow with another product, essentially. So the question is, do we write documentation for each of those workflows? Like, does doc take care of it? Does support take care of it? You know, like, does post-sales take care of it? Like, who knows? And then if a doc has to write documentation on a cross-product workflow, so two products working together, then which writer takes the lead from which product? Where does that doc live? Which product does the doc ship with? What is the infrastructure to make sure all that happens? It gets complicated quickly. So cross-product workflows, there you go. Okay, meta. So the meta is analyzing and reporting on docs. So I know there's a lot of text on the slide, so I'm going to try and walk everyone through it. But essentially, one, finding resource gaps. So in documentation, you want to know, okay, what parts of the documentation need more attention, more resources? Where do we need more writers? So the question is, how do you measure that? Do you go by the number of pages in the doc, or how important that product is to the company, the number of words, total words? Like, what is the metric for figuring out where you need more writers or attention? Okay, translation. We discussed this, but assume you are in the translation team. You need to translate a bunch of documentation before some deadline. So you need to figure out what documentation is new, what documentation has changed, have some way of prioritizing documentation. So it's a kind of a challenge to get insight into, well, what is your work? Then refactoring doc, again, same questions. What needs attention? Is it the oldest doc? Is it the doc that gets most visits? Is it the doc that's highest doc for high priority products? So on and so forth. Quality, same questions. How do you measure quality? And then documentation that is shared across products. Sometimes we have questions of, okay, who's using this documentation that's shared? Where is it embedded? Who's in charge of it? You know, you have this. So essentially, when documentation gets complex and is satisfying multiple requirements at the same time, then the reporting becomes complex in of itself. Okay, so we're at the end. Some quick takeaways. Scaling brings complexity. Complexity slows change, and technical documentation infrastructure becomes technical. And then search is a conundrum, to be honest. And that's my email in case you want to continue the conversation. All right, thank you.
It's a solid high five. I don't know if you could see that, but it was. No. It's all good. Don't worry about it. All right. That was it, folks. That was our show. So we still have some food left. If you are local and in the Boston office, you are welcome to come and help us with that. And thank you again to our sponsors at Cantina. They're always delightful and always give us a different food. But for 2018, can we bring the tater tots back? Just once. Talk with Gail? Yes. Perfect. We'll work on tater tots for 2018, so you've heard it here first. You can come back and we'll figure that out. And our next event is on December 12th. We will be at Cyber Reason. They're in the Hancock Tower, and that is fairly easily accessible by the orange line and the green line and probably several bus lines. And there is parking garages in the area if you are someone who drives, owns a car and can pay insurance. Kudos to you. TikTok. I think that's all we have. Big thanks to Cantina again. So have a lovely evening, folks. And you are welcome to ask questions to Karen post-presentation. Doing questions live is very difficult, so we try and save them for a more discussion format. You're welcome to tweet at us, and I can forward those tweets to Karen, or email, or hit us up on the Slack channel for Write the Docs. So thank you, everyone.